Patience, child.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Welcome to the zone. No, so this is Deep Space Nine at 9-ish. I'm your host, Jeff Mader. What's going on?
I guess I'm just in the zone today.
Welcome to the zone. So we are here talking about season 3, episode 24, Shakaar. This is all about Shakaar and O'Brien playing darts, but we're gonna get into it. Let's bring in our mini co-hosts. We have my brother Dave Mader. Let's bring him on in. Dave, how are you?
Hello, child.
Patience.
Walk with the prophets.
You don't do it for me. Do it for Bajor.
I'm surprised you didn't know that.
Right. Okay. And let's also bring in the tag team couple. We have both of them here, Kevin and Ashley Millard. Ding, ding, ding. How are you?
Good.
We're good.
Kevin, do you have anything to promote? Okay, good. Nothing to plug.
A pity.
Do we have a pity? Yeah. Do we have our final co-host here, Dave?
He's not here. He's running a few minutes late.
Okay.
He's expected to.
Okay. Jaemeel will drop in with some hot takes about Shakaar. I'm sure he loved this episode. We know how much Jaemeel loves the Bajorans.
I think he likes a good Kai Wynn episode, though. I think he does appreciate a good Kai Wynn. So.
I agree with that. Yes. And this is a good Kai Wynn episode. Okay, so let's start. This episode starts with Cisco and O'Brien playing darts, something we will never see again, and or just Cisco hanging out with the crew in general. This stands out.
This was like he was forced. It was like, how did this happen? Is this like he has to spend some time with a couple of senior officers? So he's like, yeah, sure. And then he was like,
don't apologize. That just makes it worse.
Duty calls, Dave. Yeah. He's in the zone and he's playing O'Brien and he's in the zone too. And this is all about the zone at Quark's. Quark is loving it. It's something to gamble on. That's kind of like the beginning of this episode. Do you guys like it? Do you like the little intro there with that part? Because then we're going to get into Kira stuff.
Okay, well, I'll go first if you'd like. I'd say that the whole plot line with O'Brien and the darts and being in the zone, it kind of was flat for me mostly. It wasn't drawing me in too much. The jokes weren't that funny to me. The whole thing with Quark and O'Brien, and I used to like it more. I didn't this time, not as much. I was way more into the Kira storyline this time.
Yeah, and I think back in the 90s, I think we would have been more into the comedy of the Quarks and the zone and all that kind of stuff. But I agree with you on the rewatch. Yeah, it does kind of fall flat. It's like watching a 90s sitcom a little bit with the jokes. But yeah. Okay, so let's go into the Kira stuff. How much do you love the Kira stuff here? She's praying. Cisco comes in and tells her that Kai Wynn is now the leader of the Bajoran government, and she is super psyched about it. What do you guys think? She's, go Kai Wynn. Yay.
I'll defer to Kevin Ashley here. If you guys want to go.
I like that they did this because it gives us a chance to see what Kai Wynn would do with absolute power. Like that she would become a tyrant.
Yeah. What is it when you're you're a leader of a theocracy?
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever that is.
Like an Ayatollah?
Like an Ayatollah, yeah. So that's basically what she is. A rock and roller. Yeah. And Cisco's the one to give her this news, which I thought is appropriate. But was that the priority one message that he needed to leave to go find out about the darts, and then he goes and tells Kira? That's basically what happens.
I get the impression that this episode takes place over the course of many weeks, maybe even a month. It's not even quite clear, but there's a series of events that happens, which starts with Cisco and O'Brien playing darts, and because there's still this dart storyline is still going on by the end of the episode. I think that's what makes it confusing in some ways. But it's like this minister dies. Kai Wynn then becomes somehow it would be like the
First
Pope
minister,
but the Pope is now the leader of the government, which is very odd in itself. But the Bajoran political system, I don't fully understand.
Maybe not for such a deeply spiritual people.
Yeah.
Walk with the prophets.
Yeah. And so I don't think that happens overnight but maybe it happens very quickly, clearly. And then from there, there's also this whole thing with Vedic Bareil's death in the morning, and we're continuing that storyline too. But then when Kai Wynn shows up, and then she has to go see Shakaar, and then there's at least 2 weeks where they're running around in the hills together. We'll get to, but this was not like a quick series of events. This was quite a few things that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Seemingly.
Yeah. So Kevin or Ashley, you're a tag team, so you can jump in whoever wants. This meeting after the credits, we have. Well, Kira is praying to this like obelisk with a little fire, and then Kai Wynn walks in. Of course, hello, child. Eminence, that you get those pleasantries.
Fidgeting.
And then,
are you fidgeting with something?
am I fidgeting?
I hear something.
Do you hear something?
Like a scratching on metal?
Okay.
Maybe your boom?
It might be, yeah. Let me move it out of the way.
There, I heard it again.
Okay. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Patience, child.
Patience.
Yeah, so we get they talk. She's like, "Who are you mourning? Are you mourning the?" I forget who she says.
Back.
What?
Back.
What is back?
Do you guys hear? Do you hear too, Kevin? Ashley, you hear it?
Yeah.
Yes.
What is it?
I don't know. It's like something keeps hitting your microphone.
So we're just hearing like hitting your microphone every time you're talking, or even when you're not talking. Yeah.
Well, I'm trying
So
to.
basically, don't touch it when you're at all. Is kind of what you need to do.
I don't think he was. I don't know what.
Yeah, I wasn't touching it. But okay, is that better?
We'll see.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so Vedic Bareil. She walks in. Yeah, I just love she walks in. She's like, who are you mourning? Are you mourning this? I forget who she says, but she said, Kira's like, no, it's for Vedic Bareil. And she's like, oh.
He died 3 months ago.
He died 3 months ago. It's time to move on. This is
judging her immediately on how long she's mourning.
Gwen is a sociopath, so she wouldn't mourn anyone for that long. She wouldn't understand anyone mourning someone for that long.
Right. Okay. And then we learn about the Rakantha Project. Do you guys enjoy the Rakantha Project storyline? We got some replicators. We got some soil. We got some. This could help Bajor be looked at as equals and not some scavengers that suck.
Mareka and salam grass.
These type of things, they're very important. They need to be able to export these things, Dave. And Kira is arguing for these things, which I find very strange.
Well, it's kind of, okay. So the whole pitch is a little bit weird. This enemy of Kira's, who she has bad blood with on numerous levels. Remember when she was Vedic Wynn and she tried to get Bareil assassinated? Well, he got over that and then helped negotiate a peace treaty. She took all the credit for it right before she worked him to the ground and got him killed. And then she's like, yeah, he died 3 months ago. What the hell? But that's the whole setup leading up to this pitch she wants to give, where she's like, yeah, we can grow Bota, Mareka, and salam grass, and we can start to be like a power. And that's what appeals to Kira, this idea of Bajor raising their profile, probably because she lives on the station and that's something that would be more top of mind for her than maybe people planetside. But she's like, yeah, your old buddy Shakaar, who we haven't met yet. This was his introduction in this episode, and we'll talk about him and whether Shakaar. But yeah, he's go talk to him because he won't give back the replicators or the reclamators. There's not enough farm equipment to go around, so this has to go. And so yeah, she agrees to do this for some reason, but I don't think she really should have.
How do they expect to be able to be trading with other planets in 6 months if they can't even build more farm equipment for their own planet?
Or blankets for orphans.
Yeah, they suck.
A lucrative salam grass export business.
And the one thing that Bajor wants from the Federation in this episode is to apprehend Shakaar. It's like, why don't you just ask the Federation to help you out with like to reclaim whatever you need. Like, can't they help you out?
Now they, yeah, you want reclamators are apparently hard to come by.
Not if you have replicators. You can just
I don't know the whole thing about the farming and the agricultural and what the starvation ratio on this planet that has numerous technological and trade options available to it, has colonies.
I do think that this is the crux of why people don't like the Bajoran storyline. It's like, you mean to tell me that these people are in the future, like 300 years, they have replicators, the Federation's right nearby, they can help them out whenever they need. Yes, and yet they can't seem to grow food. You know, like, what is difficult about...
Well, I get that the Cardassians destroyed the planet, you know, and I think that maybe that's part of what they're trying to remind us of here, that this is a planet that, despite all its technology, is really wrecked, I guess, but it's not an ideal situation.
Not an ideal situation.
So it was when Wynn got elected.
That was convenient soundbite. Okay. We get so then Kira decides to go do this, even though, like you said, Dave, why? She shouldn't have done it.
I also think was interesting, just before we move on from that conversation too, is like that Kai Wynn drops like the whole Federation membership. Like Bajor is only years away from joining the Federation, which I don't know if we had heard that much before.
Kai Wynn also drops the Shakaar storyline as well. Like, who?
Yeah, Shakaar. This is like the transition between the what was the Bareil. Like, it's the whole Kira and Kai Wynn. That's the story, really. It's just
and Cisco as well. Like, she threatens Cisco with that, which I find interesting. That she I thought Federation membership was to be sought after, not something that you like.
It's a barter thing,
right? Like, I thought like Bajor would probably benefit a lot more from being in the Federation than the Federation would having Bajor.
Yeah.
Only because of the wormhole. The wormhole is why the Federation really wants Bajor.
Federation's already at the mouth of the wormhole.
They are, but
they don't need Bajor.
But it would be helpful to have a population base to be able to protect it.
Well, we also know that Bajor is extremely close to Cardassia. Like, it's so much that you can take a little ship made out of lumber and solar sails and fly it between the two planets. And so I guess strategically, Bajor is also sort of it would be like, you know, having something close to Russia join the United States, maybe. You know,
it's important to the Federation, but I think it's more important to Bajor at this time, anyway.
Yeah, it's almost like exactly, and so they get that we're getting towards the end of season 3, so they're kind of like they're transitioning that. Bajor's headed in that direction. Things are getting better, I guess, because it's not complete chaos, the Civil War. But here we are, almost on the brink of another Civil War in this episode, and so it doesn't seem like they're ready. Like, isn't that what Cisco said in the pilot, Jeff? He was like, "Sounds like they're not ready." You know, I don't have a soundbite for that, damn it. But
yeah. Okay, so what do you make of the scene where like Kira gets beamed down to the planet where Shakaar is, or she thinks he is, and she walks through the arid farmland, picks up the like, they make a point of doing that, and I think you're right, Dave. Like, it's again to prove the point that even though they're in the future, this planet kind of sucks.
Some parts of it, at least.
Some parts of it, anyway. Her province sucks. And she's kind of like reminding herself of that, I think, when she's going to see Shakaar.
It really shows what power and religion does, though.
Mm-hmm.
Where all of these people are all in this desolate wasteland, but where the monks pray, it's lush and beautiful, and there's vegetation everywhere.
Right. That's probably very on purpose, too. For sure.
Right. But that's also like, look at the Vatican. You know, exactly. You know, exactly. Look at Mecca. You know, so it's very consistent. So we have.
What did I think of this scene, though? I thought it was a good scene, Jeff.
With Shakaar, where he meets her. He reminds me so much of Michael Douglas, like this guy.
Yeah, he's like a Canadian Michael Douglas.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Duncan
exactly what he
Regeer.
is.
He's fresh out of his breaking role in Star Trek: The Next Generation, 7 seasons.
Is he Ghost? Was he the Ghost?
He's
Yeah.
Space Ghost. He's Ronin.
He couldn't get Crusher, so he moved
Beverly.
up to Kira.
Forget about Beverly. Nerys.
Nice. Yeah. Can we do this episode, but Shakaar is the Ghost?
Sure. Or he's just always the Space
Sub in
Ghost.
the dialogue and everything.
Yeah.
Or just another good Shakaar episode.
He has to be more British because obviously that character was like he
was
supposedly
Irish.
was from Scotland, but spoke like he was from the Royal Shakespeare Company.
Yeah. He spoke like the Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, and then now he's got a more like Americanized accent in this, or I guess maybe he's what's more true to his accent. I think that they have very good chemistry, though. I think like obviously like it's written that she knows him. He's like her old like leader, like resistance cell leader. So I thought it was good. I thought, and then the other two that they bring in, like what were the names? Lupaza and Pharrell, who they'll be back a few times in this show. It's good. Like it's a little late almost for Kira because this is like her family, and this is like the end of season 3, and we're meeting sort of not her real family, like not her brothers or anything, which we never meet. We only meet her father and brothers in weird flashbacks where her mom's hooking up with Gold Dukat. Spoilers.
There is one episode I remember where they do a flashback of her fighting like in the Resistance days. And she's like flying like a ship and she has longer hair. Like he says in this episode to her, like you have shorter hair. And it's like, you let yours grow. I do remember an episode where they kind of deal with that, but it's very short. But it would have been cool to see kind of like what Kira was like during the Resistance. Like, was she like cutthroat? Like, was she like Black Widow that we just saw willing to blow up kids?
Seems like they just ran around the hills and hid in caves a lot and shot at Cardassians when they rode by, or they liberated some death camps too, so that was good.
Right.
Yeah, okay. But what interests me, okay, like the whole thing about the fact that she's in the military, right? Because there's this whole thing that the Cardassian occupation ended, and then it's about 2 weeks later is like the beginning of the show, right? So there's like this whole transition where, okay, I guess Cardassians are gone, and so the Bajoran provisional government's formed relatively quickly, and this Bajoran militia, I guess, was formed. And who they decided, or I guess it was whoever wanted to be in, and then who was going to be an officer, and who was going to be what rank, and how they figured all that out. And then now they stationed her up on the station. That was all in 2 weeks. And obviously Shakaar didn't go into the military, even though he's a very capable military commander, clearly. That him and Linares Linares did choose to become like a colonel, and he took up a commission. But Shakaar, I guess, just wanted to be a farmer before he turns prime minister at the end of this.
Well, that's the idea. Yeah.
It's the only episode where I buy Shakaar as any kind of leader. After this episode, he's a different. He turns into a different person, almost like a buffoon.
Is it because he looks like this after that?
Partially.
Yes. Yeah, he's wearing a scarf. The scarf immediately throws away his credibility.
Yeah, he has like a real rugged look in this episode, and you go, okay, this is a man of the people. And then he turns politician, and then
yeah, he
becomes
becomes everything he was trying to fight.
Down in the Dakhur province.
Okay, so then we move into the bar, and now Dax is playing darts. And everyone's clapping, and Quark is loving it. Morn's clapping, he's loving it. Everyone's really getting into it. And O'Brien's in the zone, and there's no stopping him. And I don't know, you guys like this stuff?
Chief of Operations Miles Edward O'Brien.
I like it, yeah. Well, yeah. O'Brien, he's really good at darts until, until Bashir gets a hold of him. But that's a different thing.
There's no way an Irishman is blowing his shoulder out holding a beer. It's not happening.
No, he faked this. He threw this. He didn't want to be the darts champion. He wasn't hurt.
That's probably true. And
I don't think he could fake that with the doctor actually doing scans and saying you need surgery. That's not.
I think him and Bashir planned it.
I always thought that too, and I was waiting for that while we were watching the episode today. Never came up.
It might come up in a different episode. Maybe
There's
like
no way he needed going like this, and you see it. It's almost like it's like a wrestler. You know, it looks like you got hit with a steel chair. He has to sell it.
Bad acting.
But it may have already just been. It was like this straw that broke the camel's back. His shoulder was already bad, and he just moved the wrong way. And boom.
It's plausible, but it's so exaggerated. It doesn't think
He drank that beer too. He has 2 arms.
there's a history of him hurting his shoulder with the
because
kayak.
what's the I feel like there's some kind of cautionary tale being presented to us here, and I'm not sure what it is. Like, don't gamble.
Don't get into a bookie's grasp.
Like I feel like I think that O'Brien didn't like all the attention, and so he threw this. He faked this injury. It was like where Quark's just like, all I did was hand him a drink. Oh yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. All you did was hand him a drink.
I thought that too going in, but watching it this time, no, I don't think so. I don't think so.
I think Jeff is right, and all his kayaking injuries just caught up with him.
And if you do this, like you can hurt your shoulder after a while. Like if you're doing it over and over, and you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the dinner scene with all of Kira's old war buddies. One guy doesn't have an arm. She asks him, "Hey, you know, you can fix your arm. You just got to go to like the Federation." And what's his name? What's his Perel. Yeah, he's like, I don't know if I need a new arm. I'm kind of good. That's kind of what he said.
That was a really good scene. I thought it was a really good
scene. I am dumbing it
story.
Down.
The whole thing's quiet. I thought it was really strong. This character who I've never met, like he obviously he tells his story, he fills in all the. He makes this whole episode makes Kira stronger because of what we learn about and some of this stuff, and he's part of that. And I'm glad they brought him back a couple times. You know, they eventually kill him off. But
yeah, because it also seems like Kira doesn't have any friends. I mean, she's pretty aggressive toward almost everybody on the station except like Cisco, and and Odo. So like it seems like who's like Kira buddy with? Like, because she's not really buddy with Dax, and she's not really Odo a bit. Like she's kind of like a loner a little bit. Like she's like the Bajoran one on the Bajoran on the station. It's like all the Bajoran stories are her stories, So I can see like why she's so close to home. Why don't we have?
They're a weird dynamic. They're a weird mosaic crew, right? Because of the way those relationships don't interconnect quite like the next gen relationships do, where all 7 or 8 of those characters are incredibly important to one another. In the Deep Space Nine group, it's like some of these are more important to them than others.
They're not even really a crew, I would say, either, because most of the time the stories don't revolve around all of them. They revolve around 1 or 2 characters. Right. And then there'll be a second story about 1 or 2 characters, and the others are just sort of milling about.
Well, I do think it's important to note that this is like back-to-back episodes where we're not dealing with the Federation almost at all. Like last episode it was all about the Ferengi, and this episode it's all about the Bajorans. Like, and Star Trek, I'm sure a lot of people watched Deep Space Nine back when it first came on and were like, what is this? I want to see the Federation. I want to see ships. I want to see exploring. And I'm dealing with Bajoran farm equipment and, a guy with no arm and but in retrospect, you watch it so much better than I think anything trivial they could have done. Well,
it depends what you want in your Star Trek, if you will, right? I guess it depends what you're looking for, or if it's just a completely different show and you want it to be not like Star Trek, which is clearly what this writing team was always going for, is that this was not going to be. It was done very much production wise in the style of Next Gen, but it was not in the narrative style at all. Like I think sometimes this longer plot line with Kywin and the Bajorans and Kira, it has its ups and downs. Sometimes you're just like, okay, yeah, and other times it's like it's really good. Like I think like some of the drama is really strong. It doesn't always hold up quite like some of the other stuff does. You know,
It's just not as interesting to watch. Like on a rewatch, even it is a good, like it's kind of, you can break a lot off of it, but it's not exciting. Like they're talking about, it's a lot of metaphors, and it's like Kevin said, like look at where the religious people are, and look where like these people are living. Like there's subtle points, and they're definitely doing it. But on the rewatch, you're like, can we skip the Bajoran episode and get to like something cool where they go travel in time, or something interesting? It just gets monotonous with the Bajoran stuff.
Well, they're also trying to like follow that next gen formula of giving each cast member a real focus episode too, right? And so this is Kira's turn. Next week we get Dax's turn. Her last feature episode before like the big episode that's gonna be the finale for season 3. And so like in last week it was Quark's episode. So that's also the nature, because you have this really diverse alien cast. You're getting a diversity of stories from their backgrounds. Yeah, no, for sure. And sometimes like you're either like a Ferengi person, or you like those episodes, or you like the Bajoran episodes. I haven't met too many people that say they like the Bajoran episodes, but there's a few that do stand out. And this, for me, the fact that the one doesn't deal with the Cardassians almost at all, that's why it's not as good for me, because that's the best stuff for me is the Bajorans, the Cardassians, and their history. And this is more about like religious politics and trying to like rebuild and farming, and there's a lot of different. It's more real life, which makes it less interesting, I guess, or it's a little bit more of the mundane nature of like, winning, like fighting a war is glory and all the stuff they talk about when you're in the resistance and you're jumping around, but then when you actually got to run a planet and you got to like govern in the that's a lot harder, and the infighting and how tensions will build by people who were once allies are now on opposing forces. They have different visions for what this planet should be and what they should work on. Kind of, it's a sad reality. You see it in many cases. I think they were just trying to point to that. You get different like maybe Soviet republics and different like countries that were liberated after the Cold War that had a lot of issues. Even though the Soviets weren't being like controlled by the Russians anymore or whatever. It was it doesn't, those problems don't fix overnight, which I think is an important message, but it's because we're so tied in with the planet. And I don't know, and maybe it's the religious, all the religion all the time that makes it less appealing for me, but it's not it's not so much that there's like a focus on one species that bothers me. No, me either. I prefer to watch like two species interact rather than like just delve in on like Ferengi politics or delve in on just Bajorans, because a lot of the times it does become this. It becomes more real world, more real life. Some of it's like monotonous. Some of it is like, why do I care what Kai Wynn wants? What do like? What is it to me? Or even what is it to Sisko even or Dax or Bashir? Like they're playing darts. They could care less about what's going on in Bajor in this episode, which is not brought up. Where's Kira? Who cares? Yeah. They don't care at all. Like they are just, Quark is looking to get rich. Everyone else, O'Brien's throwing darts, Dax is throwing darts. They don't even bring it up. They don't go, hey, they don't bring it up at all. They're like, Kira's on the run. What a fugitive. Nope. They're like, it's kind of crazy what's going on in Bajor right now. Like it could be a civil war. Yeah.
Matter of fact, like I think I'm gonna go kayaking.
I feel like I could have used a scene where, like, even if it was Dax who went up and go, "Did you hear about Kira, Sisko?" Or Ben. Hey Ben, did you hear about what Kira's up to? What his reaction would have been interesting, because he does.
Would have been, "I'll be in my office."
Yeah, he's like, how about you call Kai Wynn, see what's going on? I'll be in my office. Yeah. Okay, so do you like the moment here where O'Brien's playing the Vulcan? The Vulcan is like a typical Vulcan, dick kind of guy,
When they're competing against Vulcans, when anybody's competing against a Vulcan, I love it. They're the sorest winners ever, and I'm so entertained by it. Yeah, they're awesome because they act like they have no emotion, but they always have.
But they're so smug.
they're the most smug and most condescending race when it comes to anything competitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all when they play baseball against them, when they anything they do against the Vulcans, it's awesome.
This guy who played him, his name is Sherman Howard. He also played Endar from an episode in TNG called Suddenly Human. You know, the one where like the human kid was adopted by the other alien species. He was like the dad, and he also played the Klingon Tagrath in the episode Prophecy on Voyager. He was one of those Voyager Klingons that shows up.
So he's been around. Okay,
been around. But what this guy does on Deep Space Nine, I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, you know what? He's a Vulcan being a dick, and you know what?
Since he's in like the shoulder version, that implies he's stationed on the station.
Okay, okay, Mr. Uniform guy. Look at that. Details discovered by Dave.
I got different questions about those Bajoran uniforms too. While we're on the subject of it,
Sure.
Well, sure.
Shoot.
what's up with what is the Bajoran color scheme exactly?
It's burgundy, tan, and
Gray,
dark teal, and dark gray. Yeah,
Almost a purple.
almost a purple. Yeah,
Yeah.
purplish
purple.
burgundy.
Okay, what do those guys do? What do the purple guys do?
Oh, the purple. That I think they're science.
Engineering.
They're like engineering guys because that's like what Rom wears, right?
Yeah, and then that girl wore it in that one episode that was helping out O'Brien.
Okay, but Odo wears like the tan one, like the khaki.
That's
looking
security, so that's yellow.
one. Okay, what's gray?
I think gray is either civilian or like it's got to be I don't know, like
What's gray? And then red is what
Science.
Kira wears, right? She wears like
red's
that red-
command, obviously.
Red's command, but gray is like soldier non-command.
Yeah, it's got to just be like
Like
duty
not-
officer, like a duty officer.
Yeah, I don't get their colors. I don't like their uniforms. Just on the record.
Yeah, well, you've said that many times. You're a hater on the Bajoran uniforms.
I don't like them. They're got all that corduroy looking material. It's just, it's not good. Those big shoulders. Kira's look in this episode was killing me, Jeff. She's wearing like a muscle suit underneath, like huge shoulder pads. Like she looks like a Romulan practically.
It is kind of weird. Like, why in the military do they have to wear shoulder pads? Like, what is going on with that?
Well, it's just what they did a lot, especially in this era of Next Gen and TNG. They were making them. This Bajoran uniform had to look very big and I don't know or something. But with that collar, I guess it was probably to help keep the collar up. I don't know. Like here we see Linares. He's got the one version of it there. Look at just look at that texture.
I know this actor. I like it. I kind of like the texture. I think their uniforms, Dave, I think are much nicer quality than like a Federation uniform.
No, that collar is no good. That collar is. Ugh.
Oh no, it's got nice, like it's intricate. Like I think if you ask like a fashion student, what's a nicer garment? Bajoran.
No way. You'd rather wear like this. Where is it? This turtleneck. This sleek looking turtleneck, like on Syvar.
No, I'd rather wear the what you showed before. That guy's uniform was really awesome.
Oh, where is he?
This one, yeah, I would wear that one for sure. That's less shoulder paddy too. Like, Kira's is ridiculous.
Kira's is ridiculous.
There's one part in the episode when she's like down in the trench and she's about to like plant that thing that like disrupts their tricorders, and she's all bloody. And if you have a shot of it, Dave, but like you could see her shoulder pad. It's like poking out of her shoulder. And it's so obvious. Pad.
But yeah, like it's like her look. I don't know. I guess because to make her, they think she's too small of a woman, or something.
It looks ridiculous because her shoulders are now twice the width of her hips, and it doesn't look good.
No, yeah.
The triangle.
Yeah. That's why it's wrong. Yeah, it's the hip to shoulder ratio.
Yes, if she had wider hips, it would look better with the shoulder pads. But if you have very narrow hips, you don't want the shoulder pads.
Yes. Nah, you got to get the hips.
Nah. I'm sure it wasn't her fault. I'm sure she complained about the uniform.
It wasn't her choice.
She was very hot in that uniform.
She just does the acting.
No makeup, except for one episode, maybe. Okay,
that's not her. I only have it there. You can kind of see it from the back there, but it's not a good shot.
No, I can get it for you, dude. But like there are certain moments where you don't notice it. But yeah, that was one part.
When she's standing up, you notice it.
Okay, so did you like this whole sequence at the end of the episode where they're going through the cliffs of California, and
It's clearly California with a bit of a filter.
sepia filter, California. They went out to Yosemite probably and filmed this.
It was a drought season.
It was a drought season, yeah.
I
It's okay.
think it's fine. I think it works pretty well. It makes me ask these questions of like, why can't they find you? This is again the future, and this is a place where they have spaceships that can scan people and beam them up, and find.
They put a dampening field into the desolate soil of Bejor.
But they have ships, Jeff. They have cameras. We have Google Earth today that we can find people. We can look at like live feed down on like a little place on the Earth, right? Like Bejor should even have it better, but they can't find these people running around this little cliff edge or the up and down the mountains. I don't know. If you could suspend the disbelief about that, I loved it. Like it was really like I was like, okay, cool. You're taking in the fight to these Bejorans. You're not giving up this farm equipment, so you're gonna not take it with you, or they hid it somewhere. I don't quite get that part, but
listen, this isn't about them. It's about Kai Wynn. She's going to start a civil war, and they're going to get Shakaar, and Shakaar is going to become the new first minister, and then they're going to really stick it to Kai Wynn. And that's the plan.
A pity.
A pity.
I do like the sequence in the valley, and I like this Linares thing, and I like how they're like, oh, he's good, and and they kind of like they give him props, and I thought that the scene was really strong. This actor who plays Linares, I thought
he's been in Star Trek before. I've seen this guy many times. He's got to have been.
John Doman is his name. He's been in a ton of stuff.
He's Borges. He's the main character in that.
He was more recently in the Trial of the Chicago 7. He was in Mystic River. He was in Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Who did he play in the Trial of the Chicago 7?
John Mitchell.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He was in Blue Valentine. And he's done a ton of TV work and different things. And he was really good in this. I thought like for what the little thing, I thought that the whole Bajoran, like, I think they were like, damn, that Ferengi subset of our cast is making our Bajoran shit look like not as good, because I actually was enjoying. If it was going to be like an out of Starfleet story, I'd almost rather get a Ferengi story than a Bajoran story.
I would always want that more.
Not me, because I Walter Shawn. I don't want to.
Wallace Shawn.
Wallace Shawn. I don't want to listen to him.
I don't even have he's still not on the soundboard.
There are some Bajoran episodes that I really, really like usually when they deal with the Cardassians. But these ones, not my favorite. But I wouldn't say they're bad.
I want to know, though, in this last scene here, what was the point in having the guy fire? It didn't cause anything. It didn't change anything.
Yeah.
I think to show how close they were coming to the edge. You mean how like the one of the Linares' guys, and he says, "Don't give fires unless I give the order," because they're surrounded.
No one shoots. He's fire.
Right,
Yeah.
and I think to show, I think it just as like sort of an example of how close they came to civil war, how quickly one nervous shot can sort of lead to a chain of events, a bloody
lead to a chain of events at all.
No, because cool minds settle it down, but then maybe next time they can't.
If it wasn't for Kira and her rogue sensibility, they would never have been able to talk to Linares and convince him that they need to go to Kaiwood and say, this has to stop.
All right.
Yeah.
That's kind of the plot, right?
Like, well, the whole, eventually, so they make the, he's like, we didn't fight the Cardassians for 25 years to just kill each other, right? And he's like, yeah, this is kind of dumb. And then I guess this whole thing that I guess Shakaar's popularity grew as he became like this fugitive run around in the mountains, or whatever. And and then Linares says, yeah, I went to the military guys and he's got their full support. I'm like, what is wrong with the Bajoran political system that the military and the clergy are this involved in like sort of their civil government? But maybe that's just their way. Like that's one of the factions that has say in how they do things. It's not unheard of. It just doesn't feel very futuristic or progressive.
To have a way that Shakaar wouldn't be immediately arrested, right? So they had to be like, well, all the military commanders are with us.
Yeah, we're not going to kill each other. We're not going to go to war for you, basically. But it felt like a political backing too, that like they're going to vote for him or support or campaign for him in some way.
Yes.
Do you love it? It's like, you know what? You're not their prisoners. He's like, no, and it's like, oh, and he's like, I'm here to run for first minister, and she's like, oh, you're kidding. He's like, she's like, I just love how like she just not want to take it. She's not like, oh, like okay.
He plays that so well though. Like you see the like seething anger underneath in that
yes
interaction.
Yes, and Kira's like, I see you're seething hatred, and I'm gonna come right at you, and I'll give it to you over pieces of farm equipment in Civil War. How about that?
This is a test by the prophets.
Everything's a test.
Kira puts her in a place. She's like, you should be the spiritual leader of Bajor. Stop trying to be an oligarch and an authoritarian. Let Shakaar do it.
Yeah, well, the question the Federation would have to ask itself is: do they want Bajor as a member? If it like legitimately, if their internal politics are this chaotic, or maybe every planet's kind of are too, and it's just part of it.
Wait, what's Earth like? Like what's their politics? Even
we don't know. We don't know anything about Earth. We barely see Earth in Star Trek.
Because like, is Earth's politics just the Federation's politics? Because that doesn't seem accurate.
Well, like presumably Earth has politics just like Ontario within Canada has its own politics, presumably, but I don't know.
Right, but they have the
Starfleet dictates what happens on Earth, though. I think
you would think so, but the Starfleet does, but not the Federation is like a different. It
Federation's like is the alliance itself, right? So it's versus like the Earth is like a member of it, so it has certain sovereign rights.
Right. Gotcha. Okay, then we get at the end of the episode here, Bashir, and he hits the bullseye, and he's surprised. Is he acting?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Do we know? Do you think they knew yet that they were gonna maybe do that, or that's not even in?
No, I don't think so. I think it was just a dumb joke they threw into this, but I think that
again works. The theory works,
but again, it's this brilliant retcon they've given to Bashir, where it makes his character more interesting in these early seasons, where he's kind of a dope.
Yeah, no, exactly. Which I enjoy. Okay, and then we get the final scene here where, Kira and Shakaar come back to the station. They're talking about the election, and she's with Cisco, sorry. But they're talking about, it's just Shakaar's popularity is growing fast, and like Cisco's like, oh, this sounds pretty good, right? What do you guys make of that ending scene? Dave?
Well, the ending scene is kind of just a PS on the whole, like sticking it to win.
Right.
And it's kind of like saying, okay, and she's not in trouble and she got her job back, in case you were wondering.
Right. That's what it's for. Because
Cisco's not mad at her for this, clearly.
Right.
This is the most friendly we've seen the two of them be yet.
Yeah, because I think that they've really struggled to of all. Even I was thinking about this tonight, and maybe more in particular in this scene, and I guess in the beginning scene because they bookends this. But the relationship with Kira and Cisco is unlike any other first officer captain in the Star Trek group. It's they come from different groups, military orders, and politics and backgrounds and everything else. But they just their connection isn't the same. It's not the same as Picard and Riker. It's not the same as Kirk and Spock. It's even Janeway and Chakotay, which is a little closer to them in the way they operate. I felt like Chakotay was a much better first officer.
You remember though too with Kira, Cisco is also a spiritual leader of her home.
Yeah, it's complicated, and even like in Enterprise with T'Pol and Archer, and other versions. I don't feel it. I don't feel like she's really his right hand. I feel like she's one of his officers. That that like she's his liaison officer to the Bajorans. That's kind of her role. But as a first officer, as a second in command,
she is the first officer of the station.
Yeah,
that
she's
is
almost
what
like
she is.
She's the first Bajoran officer.
But Dave, the station is controlled by the Bajorans, so that's why she's the first officer. She's that no other reason, because when they go onto the Defiant, she's the first officer. But is she? No.
Well, and when Worf will show up, and he's going to show up soon because we're almost at the end of 3 here. So Worf's going to be in the mix soon, and he'll become a dynamic of this crew. Plus, they're all getting promoted soon. And so they talked about this in the Star Trek Deep Space Nine documentary, like what we left behind and everything is that who they tried to really like big up Kira by the end and kind of like in this like, she was always his right hand and she was always the first officer. And they even threw in the Starfleet uniform, I think, even to address this to an extent. But really,
but if they had to address it, then it was obvious there.
She's an important part of the show. But
yes, but she's so important to the station. But Sisko's like, if Sisko was on a ship and Kira was back on the station, who would be his first officer? Like in season 5, would it be Dax or would it be Worf?
Worf.
Okay, so then, but like when he gets at one point in season 5 or 6, he gets kind of like told to stay with the Admiral and make plans, and Dax is the one that is commanding the Defiant.
It's only because Worf's assigned to the Klingon ship,
right?
At that point, which I always hated. We'll get to that when we get to those episodes, but yeah, like it's like when you compare it to like even like because we watch original series every week on Live Long and Podcast on Monday nights now, join the change-ins. And you watch the other Star Trek shows, and as a crew, how they operate in more of like this traditional sense. You got the captain, you got the first officer, you got this type of officer over here, you got the pilot, whatever, and the engineering guy who's like got to get you more power. They're kind of a twisted version of that, but even when they have the Defiant.
Sisko himself is less, I think, collaborative than any of the other captains as well. He's more of a lone wolf. Like it's his order. He's making the decisions and you're going to do it.
And there's not a lot of like scenes like we get in the other 3 shows where the first officer takes the captain aside and goes, "What the hell are you doing?"
Yeah.
Like we see that even with Chakotay and Janeway. We see it with Riker and Picard quite a bit. Even Spock and Kirk. But with Kira and Sisko, it's different. You're right. Like Sisko is more of a he's like
a contemplator. He's like a schemer.
He's more of a commander. Like he's more of a final say. He'll listen to you, but once he's made his decision, like that's it. Like don't even try.
I'm in no mood for games, Constable. What do you need?
Yeah, exactly.
That sums him up entirely.
Yeah.
He's in no mood for games.
I ain't playing it.
Yeah, don't apologize. It just makes it worse.
Exactly, and that's kind
Commander, I said launch torpedoes.
and there's they all look around and they all look at each other and they all know it's fucked up and they still do it. They still look like Worf still launches those torpedoes.
He just kind of shrugs and goes,
if that happened on the TNG on the Enterprise bridge, that would not have happened. Everyone would have went like looked at Picard and went, "What's wrong with Picard?" Like like they would have.
If I may say so, your entire response to this crisis has been an overreaction.
They would have investigated like some sort of spatial, like scientific anomaly of why Picard wanted to torpedo a planet.
He just told Kai Wynn she was an overreactor.
Yeah, he did. Well, I mean, he until this point in the show, he hasn't been an overreactor, but we'll get there.
A little defensive, aren't they?
Yeah. So,
okay, are we ready for some fun facts?
We're ready. Hit us out, Jeff.
Okay. Fun facts with Jeff. Double F. This is not details discovered by Dave. The exteriors in this episode were shot in Bronson Canyon, but the weather was so cold that a number of scheduled shots were never completed and were instead rewritten so they could be filmed in the studio. Indeed, so many shots were dropped that the crew ended up with some free time while at the canyon. So they went into the real caves at the canyon and shot the cave scenes scheduled for shooting in the studio.
Sorry, what was shot in the studio? The cave?
The outside stuff, it seems like. But then they went into, it says, indeed, so many shots were dropped from that the crew ended up with some free time while at the canyon. So they went into the real caves at the canyon and shot the cave scenes scheduled for shooting in the studio. So basically,
so they shot the cave scenes in real caves.
Yeah, so
they hadn't planned to.
They did plan to, and then it got too cold, so they planned to go back to the studio, and then they went into the caves. They're like, "Oh, it's not that cold in here," and they did it anyway. It seems like that's what happened. Very convoluted. Okay,
Worked out though.
An early idea for this episode was to have a museum on Bajor reopened to protest from Shakaar and others who believed it would be better to use the resources to feed the Bajoran people. No one was happy with the state of the screenplay, however, until Ronald D. Moore came up with the idea that Kai Wynn could attempt to become political leader of Bajor as well as its spiritual leader. This injected some much-needed conflict into the plot, and everything else fell into place after that. Ronald D. Moore saving Star Trek again.
Well, Ronald D. Moore, everything that made this show better, it seems like he was mostly responsible for. Ira Stephen Bear is definitely the head creative, but Ronald D. Moore's contributions are huge.
Absolutely.
That's good, but do this instead.
He's like that. That's intriguing, but we can do even better. Director Jonathan West describes Shakaar as a good leader and a good killer. And he explains that while filming, we had to give him that edge. What happened? Why did you give him a scarf later? Okay.
I don't buy it. I don't accept it. I think Shakaar has a bit of that in this, but that he's a killer. Like, it was this whole thing where they were going for this peaceful yoga warrior, the Chakotay, and this guy, they were trying to go for the same thing. And it doesn't quite work for me in this day and age. I'm like, okay, I only fight because for my people, but I don't want to. But yeah,
I fight for the bones of my ancestors.
And you can't go from
the Hukuchi Moyas.
You can't go from Ghost Fucker to Rambo. It just that doesn't happen.
But I'm a farmer. I'm just a farmer. But every time I'm out, they pull me back in, and then I have to start shooting people.
Okay, Pharrell and Lupaza would be seen again in The Darkness and the Light, which comes up in season 5.
Lupaza.
Is that how you say it?
She's fun. I liked her too. We didn't talk a lot about her, but
no.
And I think bringing those two back was great.
Yes,
great move.
Right.
What season was that? 5?
5, yeah.
That's 2 after this. Okay, 2 years after they come back.
The prayer which Kira recites for Bareil at the start of this episode is a request to the prophets that Bareil be guided and protected on his journey to the gates of heaven.
How do they know? They don't speak. We got Bajoran language. Is that a real language?
I mean, Klingon's a language.
Klingon is.
The Bajoran phaser rifle appears for the first time. About 10 rifles are seen in the scene in the scene set on Bajor.
Yeah, they look a lot like Cardassian phaser rifles.
This episode serves as a sequel of sorts to the episode Life Support, and it continues numerous references to the death of Vedic Bareil and the signing of the Bajoran-Cardassian Treaty. Yeah, it is. That episode is kind of a Kira episode, no?
It is.
Life Support wasn't that long ago. Okay, this episode marks the appearance of Duncan Regeer as Shakaar. He's a Canadian Michael Douglas. But most importantly, Dave, we have a 47 reference. Jaemeel, how are you?
All right. I came in for the 47 reference.
It's a very important 47 reference, Dave.
No.
Dave, I don't know if you know how numbers work, but get this one. Quark asks O'Brien if he will be back for his 47th victory. That is blatant. They are definitely putting that in there. 47. Why would they pick that number?
I don't know. And every time they do it, I don't notice it. And every week you bring it up, and I'm like, I still didn't notice it. And it's still, but I'm also happy I didn't notice it, because I think if I start to notice it, I'm going to hate it even more. So I've not been infected.
Okay.
You're wearing him down, Jeff.
The 47 references, they come up a lot. I don't think it's nothing. Duncan Regeer, who also played Shakaar, also played Ronan in Sub Rosa. That was the episode's name. Beverly. Nerys.
I like redheads.
Candle.
Okay, Gordon T. Dawson and Ira Stephen Bear had previously worked together on the television series Brett Maverick. Indeed, Dawson had actually given Bear his first writing assignment in 1981. So there you go. In a possible deleted scene, Sivar mentioned he was the science officer on the USS Garuda. The script called for the Garuda to be depicted by stock footage of the USS Prometheus from Second Sight. Although the script described it as being a Prometheus-class starship rather than a Nebula class, the script specified for the Garuda to appear twice. Didn't.
So he wasn't from Deep Space Nine. He was from the Garuda.
Yeah, you were wrong, Dave, about your uniforms.
That's true, because the Voyager were wearing the full overalls at this point.
Right.
No duty uniforms. So there was a 2371 transition, clearly, in uniform style.
It's happening right here. The uniform transition is the moment, Dave.
It was really marked by Star Trek Generations, 1994.
Okay.
Of course.
Disagree. I think it was marked by this episode.
I think this is the episode where it all changes.
Yeah.
Maybe probably is.
According to Wynn, this episode takes place 3 months after the event of life support. Yeah, because he's like 3 months and you're still grieving over this guy. We got work to do. Let's go. Okay. William Lucking, who plays Pharrell, will return as an Orion merchant, Harad Sar, in the Enterprise episode.
Oh, you see that? He's that guy. Yeah, it's the same voice. I never put that together. Yeah.
He
was a good Orion.
John K. Shull would later play Klingon Captain Katamang in the fourth season episode, Return to Grace. Okay. And Linaris Holm appears in several of the Deep Space Nine relaunch book series. That's very important. And that's it for Fun Facts with Jeff.
Okay.
We get into our ratings. Jameel, what did you think of this episode? Did you watch it?
Here, I'm gonna go to more of a.
It was a slog.
It's a slog. It's a tough one.
I appreciate some of the attempts at like intrigue but like I don't care. I don't care about Kai Wynn, especially in this situation. I did like how she was digging into to Kira earlier on, and her subtle change. She was referencing anytime someone mentioned Cisco, she's like, why would I ask for assistance from the emissary? And then when she got that answer, like, no, I'm not going to help you. I was like, okay, we'll go back to Cisco. Like she just
she didn't call him the emissary. I did notice that part where she's like, have you told Commander Cisco? She always never calls him that, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Like so in theory and in the parts are good. The whole thing, not good.
Yeah, I agree. But the darts storyline is kind of like whatever. But settle this for us, Jaemeel.
That is the B story of all.
Yeah, it's a B. It's a C Z.
It made the foreign stuff seem exciting.
Yeah, it made it look good.
Listen to this quick part of this review from IMDb. Kai Wynn, Louise Fletcher, is as always deliciously detestable as a villain, and that's worth 3 stars. Nana Visitor and Avery Brooks earn another 1 star for this episode just for doing their best with the lines given them, and that's where the positives end.
Hello, child.
Hello, child.
Patience, child.
The in the zone plot line. What debate do I have to settle?
The debate we had to settle was O'Brien, did he fake this injury like a soccer player so he could get out of the darts run because he just was sick of it? Or was this a legitimate injury? And if he did fake it, Bashir would have to have been in on it.
Bashir and the Vulcan would have to be on it.
Did they have some kind of bet on the Vulcan? And it was like a whole the Black Sox scandal of
So it would make the most amount of sense that if you were going to pull something like off, you would do it with the Vulcan because subterfuge would not be. A Vulcan would not engage in subterfuge, right? So you wouldn't have a situation where your opponent accidentally screws up and you accidentally win, right? So the Vulcan would be the best choice to ensure that if you are going to throw it, it would actually go through.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about your opponent who may also be throwing it or something.
Right.
Right.
So
you
yes,
think maybe
I
that
agree
lens
although it's unlikely, I do think that in this case, yes, they would do something like that, and they threw it.
Yeah. And what's their motive? Just because they were like, no, we want to get back to
O'Brien is tired of it, and
he'd won 47 straight times. 47.
And he loves 47, and that's where he stops.
And he also wants to screw over Quark as well.
He wants to get back Quark for whatever.
Why not? You want to do 15-1? Sure.
That's true. It's 15 for 1. Okay. All right. Ratings, Jeff.
Okay. You want me to go first?
Yeah.
This is like a 4.5.
Jeez.
I'm gonna give it better than that. I would give it like a 7.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is a 5.5.
5.5.
Yeah.
4.
4.
Yeah.
7.
I'm with you, Dave.
Like a 7 is high for this.
7.
7. Okay. Okay. Yeah. 5.6 is our average. We have a divided panel. This has a 7 on IMDb. So we're kind of split. Like this is a 6.3, which is kind of an unusual score for us to like or average.
If I don't want to watch the episode again, it gets below a 5 for me.
Same.
A Kira and O'Brien story, I guess.
That's a very loose.
It's a very weird. It's very loose. Yeah. Okay, so the next episode, though, as we mentioned, is Facets, I believe, right?
Don't delete it, please.
No.
I'm glad that you still have
the original series one.
Oh, I'm glad you didn't delete that.
Well, I was able to recover it. But
Don't
I did
forget the change in.
Oh, well, did we lose Jaemeel? There you go.
I guess so.
He actually does say, what Quark says, he goes, I hope I trust we'll be seeing you here for your 47th straight victory. That's what he says to him. And then Brian goes, actually, I was thinking about getting some time in the holosuites. He was like, basically, so maybe your theory has some legs that, he was over it.
I always thought that was the case until I watched it today. So it could be.
I don't believe it.
I didn't think it was like I thought this episode was fine.
I gave it a 7 because Kai Wynn is amazing in this, and
well, that's the only reason I give it even close to a 5.
It develops her even more. Like this is what she would do with absolute power, and of course she would try to grab power.
But I love the long game. She's like the big bad,
yeah.
And it's this long game. It's not. It's like normally like this. A villain like this may have been killed off or eliminated way earlier.
Her and Gul Dukat are the long villains.
Yeah, and it was so smart bringing those two together near the end.
Yeah,
right. Just for them to ultimately have their ending that they do. So, I'm a Kai Wynn supporter, not in her politics or for her or for the position of first minister, but
she needs to. Dave, you need to get a shirt that says "Vote Kai Wynn."
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't know that.
Child. Patience. I love that, like that one part though, like where she is convincing Kira, like, oh, don't do it for me, do it for Bayshore. It's like you are such a manipulative, like,
Walk with the prophets.
Walk with the prophet, all this kind of stuff.
I'm surprised you didn't know that he didn't want fame.
And
I'm surprised you didn't know what it was such a dig. And then she's like, can you help me with this problem?
Yeah, I have a problem.
Sure.
You need to go capture your old friend. That really helped you, saved your life many times.
Yeah.
For me.
I know. Right. And this will be her next boyfriend, by the way. We haven't talked about that. The fact that Shakaar, he's not, I like that he's not the love interest right off the bat, but there's a hint in here, right? Like that little scene outside of the house.
But at the end, when she like blows out the candle or the flame or whatever that she had lit for Bareil, she blows that shit out at the end.
Right. It's closure on Bareil. I feel like she was getting back at Kai Wynn for how she drove Bareil to death, like in that whole Cardassian peace treaty negotiation. And this was some semblance of like, yeah, and I got you back this time.
Retribution.
And now Bareil's soul can walk with the prophets or whatever.
Yeah.
She can let him go and move on to Shakaar.
Yeah.
Yeah, who I don't think is a good match for her either, although I like him better than Bareil.
It's not hard.
I'm not a matchmaker. I'm not, Kira. I just don't like the character. The character is boring.
I like Kira with Bashir. I think they might could be a good couple.
Like the other characters are way more interesting than Shakaar. Like Dupaza and Pharrell. They're way more interesting to me than Shakaar is.
Yeah.
Well, Shakaar is Chakotay. Right? Like that's
and that's bones of our dead ancestors, Akuchamoya, all of that. we can only handle so much Akuchamoya.
I want to make a lotion of some sort called Akuchamoya.
Yeah, Akuchamoya. Akuchamoya is like got to be. Yeah, I got to use that more. I got to
What is it made out of? It's made out of the bones of our.
Akuchimoya. We are far from the sacred places of our grandfathers and from the bones of our people. But perhaps there is one powerful being who will embrace this good crew and give them the answer they seek.
Okay, this is what we do. We make Janeway's Akuchimoya coffee. Okay, it's made out of the bones of your dead ancestors. You put some calcium.
As you're far away from your.
Yeah, you put some bone broth in your coffee, and you call it Akuchimoya Janeway's coffee, Starfleet edition. I think it's a winner. What do you guys think?
It's a winner too. Prodigy's coming out.
I think it would sell.
I think it would sell too.
Akuchimoya blend.
Akuchimoya blend, yeah. Akuchimoya Arabica, Akuchimoya Colombian.
I want to know if that is copyrighted. We need to find out.
Akuchimoya? Was it even a real word?
Is it a word? Yeah. Like, what does it mean? Like, what does Akuchimoya actually
I think
mean?
it might be Navajo or something, but I don't know.
So yeah, they can't copyright. They can't copyright a Navajo word.
Yeah, I'm not 100% on that though, or even 50%. But
Dave, do we have any shows coming up here on the many networks?
We have shows.
What do we got?
We have shows.
We have shows.
Are we joining the change-in?
Are you okay? Join the change-ins on Mondays as we continue our original series rewatch. Watching every episode of original series is not in order. When did we do that? I can't even remember what. But guess what? We just last night, Jeff, we did an episode called "This Side of Paradise," where Spock was getting sprayed with flowers. It was something.
I like that episode.
Yeah, he was like, and he got a girlfriend, and he was Kirk was getting all mad at him. It was a good one. So, so we did that last night. There's a few more episodes to go, and I was to go to check. Oh, live long and prosper. Thank you, Jaemeel. We are going to be doing That Which Survives, which will be our next episode of Star Trek The Original Series next Monday night here on Live Long and Podcast, as we'll be talking about that. And then we'll be back in a week to talk about Facets here on D Space 9 Tuesdays, plus our other channels. We got Super Mater Brothers Podcasting, where on the weekend, Jaemeel and Ashley and I, we were talking about the movie Black Widow as we continue our Marvel Cinematic Universe rewatch. As our 2021 coverage continues, as we did Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and before that, WandaVision. Coming up this Saturday, Jeff, we're talking Loki. You remember Loki?
Yep. No, I was watching it.
You're on that podcast, right? You're gonna be in here with the Marvel gang, as we say.
Are you guys a gang?
We're a gang.
Yes, we are.
Are you guys like the Avengers?
He is.
He watched.
Yeah, we're like the Lokis.
Yep.
Okay. I've been really liking it. It's been my favorite Marvel.
No spoilers.
This has been my favorite Marvel thing. Endgame.
I watched it all.
Oh, you're all caught up?
caught up.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
All right.
I liked WandaVision quite a bit, but this is even better for me, this Loki show. I mean, because I really love time travel and all that kind of stuff, and they were doing that in WandaVision a little, like kind of like simulated through the eras and stuff, which was really cool. I really liked all that stuff. But for me, this is even better because just the possibilities of everything they can do is endless.
Yeah, I feel like Loki is like the Doctor Who version of Marvel, which I'm into Doctor Who, so it's
this is kind of like allowing me to digest Doctor Who concepts, because when I watch Doctor Who, it's a lot of like, oh, where we going now, Doctor? And it's like, Doctor.
Allons-y.
And I'm like, I get lost. I get lost in the British accents, because sometimes, like, that's why they did this for Harry Potter. That's why they dumbed down their British accents.
Yeah, they're like less British.
Like, yeah,
can be British, but not that British.
You can be British, but it's got to be an Americanized British.
No Cockney.
No Cockney.
Right now, governor.
But Doctor Who doesn't subscribe to that. They never have.
Right. So we're going to be talking about Loki this Saturday night coming up. Really excited about that. Plus, also 3 times a week here on Super Mater Brothers, or not here on Super Mater Brothers podcasting, but over on Super Mater Brothers. Where am I? I'm not on camera.
I don't know why.
Hey, you guys didn't even tell me I wasn't on camera.
Oh, we just rolled with it.
Yeah, I was plugging all these. I was plugging all these things. I was plugging my wares. You know. Okay, but what were we talking about? Oh yeah, Big Brother, Jeff. The teams, the cast, everything else. We're just getting started on our Big Brother 23 USA coverage. We did the premiere last Wednesday, and on Sunday night we talked about the HOH in the nominations. Wednesday night we'll be talking about the Power of Veto competition, as we will be every Wednesday night for the next 12 weeks. And then on Thursday there will be the live eviction episode, as we'll be sending the first house guest out of this house, and 16 will become 15. Are you excited?
Hashtag no penis.
Hashtag no penis. That requires
Dave. I was okay. I just went on a deep dive about a Kuchimoya, and it turns out that the Native American consultant that Voyager had was a fraud, and it was proven he was a fraud. So the Kuchimoya is a completely made up word and doesn't mean anything. It's not copyrighted. It doesn't look like, because it's so ridiculous. And
but they won't be putting it on a T-shirt anytime soon.
Kuchimoya, a Kuchimoya coffee. It sells itself.
Yep. And then also, lastly, our Trivial Debates channel. It's our monthly channel. We argue about movies, TV, sports, and more. Jeff, you'll be one of the competitors this month, as Mike O'Connor will be hosting for the first time ever, and we'll also be competing against Adam Woodward and Jody Simpson.
But yeah, when are the questions coming?
The question soon. July 25th is the episode, so we're still. It's not. It's still over a week away. So lots of time.
Lots of time.
And that's all our shows on the horizon, I think.
That's
right?
it.
Did I miss anything?
Well, join us next week when here on Tuesdays Night at 9ish when we break down Facets. Yes, it's a Dax episode. Deal with it. It's not going to be very good. It's going to be forgettable.
Dax episodes, actually, because it's the one we meet Curzon.
Right.
Odo becomes Curzon in this next one.
So it's the one Dax episode that's where they don't go to a hospital or something. Something happens.
She gets her symbiote messed up, or she has to
Dax always ends up in a hospital. Every time. It's like
she's often on a bed.
She's either on a bed or in a planet that's about to blow up, or something like that's happening to Dax.
So she's like the real life incarnation of Kira. So Kira pretends to be a prostitute, whereas Kira spends most of her episodes on her back in a hospital or on a bed of some sort.
That's true. That's a good point. Okay, but yeah, so join us next week where we break all that down. I've been your host, Jeff Mater. For all of us here at Tuesdays 99, Dave Mater, Kevin and Ashley Millard, Jaemeel Robinson. Kevin, you got anything to plug real quick before we sign off?
Thanks.
Okay.
No.
A pity.
Well, a pity. Live long and prosper. Live long and podcast. And a Kuchimoya.